Should you draft Travis Kelce with the first overall pick in your 2023 seasonal fantasy football leagues? I'm Alan Seslowsky of RotoWire.com to inform you that Kansas City Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce is a great pick in 2023. Kelce is an all-time Hall of Fame player who has an average draft position in the first round, even in superflex formats. The question we need to explore is whether Travis Kelce is worth the first overall pick in your draft this season. First overall pick in your draft this season. Travis Kelce has been putting up difference-making numbers at a scarce position for years. He's been the most consistent tight end in fantasy football, finishing as the tight end 1 in 6 of the last 7 seasons. Suppose Travis Kelce was designated as a wide receiver instead of a tight end. In that case, it is reasonable to assume that the fantasy community would have him ranked as the number 1 overall player, similar to when Steelers wide receiver Antonio Brown was the number 1 consensus overall player for a half of a decade. Not only can Travis Kelce be counted on to finish as one of the top tight ends in fantasy, the advantage you project to have versus your league is larger than that of having the number 1 overall wide receiver on your team. For example, in PPR leagues last season, Travis Kelce was the tight end 1, finishing with 316 fantasy points. The tight end 12, Dallas Goedert, finished with 142 fantasy points, a difference of 174 fantasy points. For the wide receiver position, Justin Jefferson was the wide receiver 1, finishing with 368 fantasy points. The wide receiver 12, Christian Kirk, finished with 242 fantasy points, a difference of 126 fantasy points. Simply stated, though the wide receiver 1 scored more fantasy points than the tight end 1 in our very small sample of 1 season, the positional advantage is greater, giving you a plausible case to draft the scarcity of tight end at the number 1 overall pick, when the player is as consistent year to year as Travis Kelce has been. In tight end premium scoring, where the tight ends score a 1.5 or more for receptions, the case is ironclad for Travis Kelce to be the first overall pick. In that format, Kelce would have scored 371 fantasy points, beating Justin Jefferson head to head. With more teams deploying running backs by committee and having 3 wide receiver base sets, it is easier than ever to draft production from those positions in round 2 through 5. Elite tight ends like Kelce are unavailable outside of the top 25 picks. Some of the common objections to not taking a vanity tight end at all in the first round is that drafters do not like the way their draft looks on paper. They report feeling like they're chasing the draft, trying to catch up on running backs and wide receivers. Another reasonable objection to not drafting Travis Kelce in the first round is that Kelce is going to be 34 years old in October, way past the age apex. The counter argument for that is that the all-time Hall of Fame tight ends seem to have aged better than their wide receiver counterparts. Tony Gonzalez was the tight end 2 overall at age 37, and Antonio Gates was among the league leaders at the position well into his 30s. A more modern example is Rob Gronkowski. Gronk was among the elite fantasy players on a per-game basis when he retired at the age of 32. There seems to be a correlation between Hall of Fame tight ends and late career fantasy production. It's your team, and you can construct it how you want to. However, we are giving you permission to shock your league while giving yourself a positional advantage and selecting Travis Kelce as the number 1 overall pick in 2023 seasonal fantasy football leagues.
Alan Seslowsky